Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show. It's draft eve, and you know what that means.
I'm not yelling today. We have a very long live draft show tomorrow. I have a bunch of radio. I'm not going to throw my voice out yelling today.
Oh,
You're going to come back on Friday.
That's right. It is the NBA Draft Eve. We have the draft coming up tomorrow. A bunch of trade activity. Boy, Keith, we said this was going to be the summer of trades. A lot of people have been talking about this. On top of that, there was a lot of speculation that stuff was going to happen early, that teams weren't going to be waiting for free agency start in order to get to work on the trade market. And that is exactly what's been going down. This has been a lot of fun seeing all the moves that have been taking place already.
Yeah, we're already, 4 trades in now, I think, including like some big ones.
Trades.
5 trades, because we had that Pelicans Pacers trade as well. That was that draft pick swap. So I mean, that's a lot of action pre-draft. Like that normally we don't see that much. I will say this too, and this is always tough at this time of year. A lot of these deals are agreed to. They work just fine as agreed to, but teams are holding these until we get into the new league year to see, is there something else they want to roll into this? Is there another way to structure it? Bring in a third team, add another player, something like that. So just if you're seeing that kind of stuff and it's like, hey, why have the Rockets not announced Kevin Durant? Or why did the Celtics not talk about the Drew Holiday trade? It's because those trades aren't official yet. And teams won't talk about them until they're official.
And so that's not reason to say, oh, well, does that mean the trade's not going to happen?
Correct.
It could be expanded. It could be changed. And sometimes we even see 2 trades that get reported separately that wind up getting intertwined. And it's all about the execution of them. And some of them do have to wait until, say, July 6th to get the deal done. So again,
remember that Pelicans Grizzlies? It ended up being the Bucks ended up involved. It ended up being like 5 or 6 teams, and they like Frankenstein that thing together into a monster. And it was for cap nerds like me. It was like, this is amazing. There's multiple sign-in trades in here and trade exceptions and all kinds of foolishness, and I loved it. But for most people, they're like, what is happening now? Like
it was almost like they did it just to see if they could. You know what I mean? Like it was like a bunch of friends that were hanging out after their fantasy football draft and just said, let's try to construct this crazy and just see what happens. Speaking
of, that's what I said the Pelicans Wizards trade felt like. When you're hanging out and you're like bored at work and you and your buddy are the only ones who haven't made a trade yet. And you're like, hey, want to make a trade? I get a couple hours to run out on the clock here.
Exactly.
And then you make a trade. There's real reasons for it. We'll get into all of those. I flagged a bunch of questions. So guys, keep those questions coming in. Really, love the questions that are already coming in already, where we're going to try to get to as many of them as we can while we break down the trades. We get some option decisions to talk about. A lot of stuff going on. Very, very, very busy day here.
All right, let's go here. Which teams are most likely to trade up in the lottery? I think generally speaking, it's the teams that have multiple picks. So when we look at
Nets,
the Nets have 4 picks in the first round. The Pelicans perhaps could be another one.
The Thunder picks,
The Thunder, that could be another team to trade. So it's those teams that are going to be trying to offer multiple picks in order to move on up in the draft. Those are the teams to keep an eye on. But I do think that there's a lot of motion possibly coming here in the draft. There's a number of teams that are going to look to move back. Teams are going to look to move up. I think we're going to get a very eventful next, 24, 27 hours, whatever it is.
Yeah, without a doubt. Since it's related to draft, we'll pull this one real quick from Tony Tiger, not necessarily Tony the Tiger, but Tony Tiger says, is there a limit to how many picks can be traded at one time? I wanted to make the snarky, the limit does not exist joke from Mean Girls, but it's the real answer is it's as many as you have that are trade eligible. You can only trade picks 7 years out, though. So right now, teams are limited to trading picks through 2031. You will hear about 2032 draft picks getting traded. We already heard about that with the Kevin Durant trade with a second rounder. That'll come, though, when the league year flips over. That's when you could trade 2032 picks.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Okay. Let's go here. Should the Warriors sign and trade Kaminga or just wait until the trade deadline to move him? Well, he is a restricted free agent
Yeah.
right now. So I would think that the best way, if the Warriors are concerned about getting value for Kaminga, probably a sign and trade would make sense. I don't know that we can necessarily rule out him just staying with the
Mm-hmm.
Warriors as well. But I do think more of a sign and trade right now would be the path to go down rather than say sign him to a new deal and then try to trade him again at say the trade deadline.
Yeah, I flagged this one because there's a couple interesting things going on with the Kaminga sign and trade idea. One, it's just always a good reminder: sign and trades are a two-way street. The sign part, the player has to agree to; the trade part, the team has to agree to. If it doesn't work for both of them, they don't do it. It's that simple. That's where you get with that. The other part why I flagged this is there's a thing called base year compensation. When you sign and trade a player, it can get really super complicated. But here's the easy thing: if the player gets a big enough raise, which Jonathan Kaminga presumably will, they only count for half of their salary as the outgoing salary in a trade. So let's say Kaminga signs. I'm not saying he will, but let's say he signs for $30 million in first year salary. He only counts for $15 million. That can make it really difficult to match salaries in a trade when you do that without bringing in a third team. The good thing is there's a ton of teams out there right now that have big exceptions that they're sitting on. You have the Nets with all that cap space, and the Warriors, as currently constructed, are not really dealing with apron issues too badly. So they could even take on a little bit of money in a trade. There's another question about taking on money that we'll get to in a minute. But that can complicate things a little bit. Definitely can be solved for, get solved for all the time. But just know it's not quite as easy as, hey, Kaminga for $30 million for this team's $30 million player. It may not work.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So it can be a tricky situation for teams to try to, and a lot of times, Keith, fans will jump to, oh, we'll just sign and trade this player. It's not an easy thing to do to execute, and the NBA did that on purpose. They don't want to sign and trade to be the
Correct.
default and see a bunch of players trying to. If you remember, what was that 15 years ago when it felt like everybody was getting signed and trade? Like
cap space, yeah, everybody was.
Yeah, that was like the way to do it. That was what that was what players did. If they wanted to get traded, sign the new contract with your current team so that you get the advantages of signing with the incumbent team, and then force them to trade you at the same time somewhere else. And the NBA, there was like, yeah, enough of that. Let's make this a more of a rarity. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's just difficult.
Yeah, and then for a little while there, sign and trades almost died out completely. We had multiple years where there really weren't any because everybody had cap space and everybody was like, why would I do a sign and trade? I'll just get them. Then we went through a period where it's like, hey, you could just sign the player, but can we make it a sign and trade so we could create the giant trade exception? That happened with Gordon Hayward to the Hornets. That was at the time the biggest trade exception in NBA history with that. I want to pull this one real quick from Eric Weiss, who says, what's the market cap on speculative plays like Kaminga in the new CBA market? It's a really great question because in the past you might have said, all right, I think Kaminga can get to being a $30 million player, and you would just sign him and say, let's go. It's kind of the equivalent a little bit of what the guys on the Hoop Collective have termed the fun max.
Yeah.
When you extend a guy.
25%.
Here's your challenge, though, is if you're already like the Warriors and you have Curry and Butler on max deals, and you got Draymond Green on a big deal, and you're an older team that's going to need depth to survive. I'm big now on you got to survive 100-game seasons because if you're planning on being a contender, because your idea is you got to get through the playoffs and the regular season. So if you're going to build the depth, you could get yourself really stuck if you think, all right, Kaminga will take the shot that he makes it to being a $30 million player. If he doesn't get close, all of a sudden it's like, crap, now we're stuck with this deal and we can't really do anything with it. So I do think there are some teams that are going to shy away a little bit from those type of situations.
Teams have to be more careful in general under the new CBA, and we've seen that play out in a lot of different ways around the league. Let's see. Our first apron team.
Sorry, I grabbed this one from Lance.
Yeah.
Sorry, just because we're on the sign and trade topic. Sorry if you said this already, but a first apron team's able to get a player in a sign and trade. They are not. That is one of the triggers that comes up with a hard cap for the sign and trade. I'll tweet out after we finish up here my little chart the little stoplight chart with all the things teams can and can't do and what hard caps you. But yeah, if you're already over the first apron and you're going to finish the trade over the first apron, you cannot bring a player in via sign and trade. Obviously,
the other thing that I would
with the second apron.
The other thing that I would like to add to that, because we've seen a few veteran players traded in the last 24 hours here, and I see a lot of fans jump to, oh, such and such team should sign this player on the buyout market because that team's going to buy that player out. Remember, any player that's making more than the mid-level exception, so more than, let's call it 14 million, if they are bought out, if they're making that prior to being bought out, then teams above the first apron are not eligible to sign that player on the buyout market. That's another one of the restrictions of the new collective bargaining agreement. So if you have somebody that's making, I don't know, Ben Simmons last year is making $43 million or whatever, and he gets bought out, every team that's above the first apron would not have the ability to go and sign him on that buyout market. So just keep that in mind when people are talking about buyouts. Is your team a first apron club or not? That, and typically teams will wait until the actual buyout market develops, which is typically post-trade deadline, rather than buyout players right now during the summer, particularly if a player's on an expiring contract.
Yeah, and it has to be really important for a player to want to do the buyout. Like they have to, I want to get to another place. They don't want to be here anymore. And that's what triggers, like, am I going to give up a sizable amount of money, or just, no, if you want me out of here, man, you better just straight waive me then. Cause I don't want to go. I'm going to pull this up real quick, Trevor. If I can, maybe I can't. Here we go. Can you see that?
Let's see. Oh, no, you need me to add it?
Oh, yeah, if you can. Sorry.
Actually, I can't apparently because... Oh, wait, there we go. Now I got it.
There it is. All right, so guys, this is what I was talking about. I call it the little stoplight chart because it's green, yellow, orange, of course, because we had to. But I'll tweet this out. We're not going to spend a bunch of time on this, but basically I created this, I think it was a year ago, just because we were like, here's a very quick reference guide. It is not super fully 100% comprehensive, but it at least explains a little bit. But just wanted to display that real quick.
Yeah, just so people have access to it. Again, Keith, it was funny was I remember last year we had people that were asking us to leave it on the screen longer because they were screenshotting it and then saving it so they could go back and reference it and all that.
Find it on Twitter and save it that way. It's just easier. So, let's talk to trades and then we'll go back into the questions. Is that all right? So, so we go first. Let's do the Celtics one first. We all knew a trade was coming. We didn't know it was going to come at 11:45 at night. Let's not do that anymore. I already sent some harsh messages off to my friends in Boston with that. So, but yeah, it's good question from Smokey about can you post on the community tab? Yeah, Trevor can do that. I think right. The little stoplight chart, maybe.
Yep.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I just have to go find my copy of it, and then I can, or
like I said, I'll tweet it out on Twitter or on Blue Sky, and you can snag it there. But yeah, so late night trade went down. I was already in bed, falling asleep when it went down. It was like my last night where I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to bed at a reasonable hour. We knew it was coming. Clearly I have some bias. You can see the hat I have on. I love Drew Holiday, always will. Big part of a championship team. I think Boston did really well in this trade. 100%. Anthony Simons can actually play. This is not a straight salary dump. We'll see what happens with Anthony Simons. There's some stuff of they may move him in another trade. Maybe they rope this into a bigger deal. But if it's just this, I think it will be okay for him there. And somehow Boston get 2 seconds in this trade that are pretty far down the line seconds because, I guess why not? That part I didn't really understand. So from the Celtics side, I think they did pretty well in this. Simons, very different player from Drew Holiday. He is about in a whole other universe.
About as opposite as you can get, really.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Nowhere near Holiday as a defender, but high volume 3-point shooter. I go back to his last 2 years when he became a prominent rotation guy for the Blazers with Damian Lillard. He was really good and really efficient. What the two most recent seasons without Dame have taught us, he's not a real point guard, and he needs to have other guys to play off of. He wasn't as efficient, and that was where some struggles came in. In Boston, he won't be that. He'll be their third or fourth option by the time Jason Tatum gets back, if he's still around on the team beyond this season. So I like it for the Celtics. It's turning in a slightly different direction, but they needed scoring and shooting with Tatum set to miss most, if not all, of the season, and Simons should fill it up pretty well for them.
And let's remember too, so much of this beyond just Simons, it's the financial side of this. You're getting off of that Drew Holiday contract. Yep. And I mean, I looked at this deal and went, oh my God, he did it again. Like when the Porzingis trade went down with Marcus Smart, I went, what are the Grizzlies doing? The picks are going the wrong way in the deal. And the same thing just happened here. The picks went the wrong way in this deal. I'm shocked. I was shocked when I saw this deal come through. This is not like Luka level or anything like that.
No.
I think the Blazers got crushed on this trade, though. This is brutal for Portland.
I wrote about it. Portland went 23-18 in the second half last year, which a lot of those games were against the West. They played really well. So I think they are taking that as we're more of that team. And they want to accelerate things a little bit. I don't think they wanted to pay Anthony Simons either. It should be noted. He is a free agent after this season. So who knows where his next contract will go. But Portland has Shaedon Sharpe. They have Scoot Henderson. I don't think they wanted to pay Simons anything near, which would have probably been in the range of what Holiday makes. So I'm not too stressed out about them taking on the long-term money, other than the fact that Holiday's an older player. But Portland really is intending to try to be competitive. Personal opinion now. Now I've explained what I think their line of thinking is. Personal opinion. You're too far. The West is too deep. It's too much of a challenge. They need to leapfrog multiple teams just to get in a play-in contention. Yes, somebody of the Western Conference group that's in front of them will probably take a step back here. I don't think Portland's done. The front court is overstuffed with guys. They've got other moves to make, but I understand why they did it, even if I would not have done that.
Yeah, to me, I look at what Portland's doing, and I think you're not a Drew Holiday away. You're not, especially what you're getting is most likely a declining asset here. Because Drew Holiday, look, we know athleticism is so closely tied to defense, and what Drew Holiday does, what makes him so great. Well, he's good in a lot of facets of the game. It's his defense. Well, what is most likely to drop off as Drew Holiday gets older? It's his defense. Kevin Durant is going to be shooting pull-up jumpers when he's 60, right? Kevin Durant's always going to have that smooth jumper. Might other
Chris
areas
Paul's
of his game drop off? Yes. Chris Paul is going to be at the YMCA and at 75 knocking those down, right? Like that's the way it goes. But when defense is your thing, you're more susceptible to losing value due to age concerns. And then on top of that, I mean, you've got Jeremy Grant's contract. I'm not saying Jeremy Grant and Drew Holiday are the same player, because they're not. Drew Holiday is much better. Jeremy Grant had a disastrous season this last year. But you're looking at the contracts, and it's the same thing. Why the Blazers, who are burdened with this Jeremy Grant contract, said, sign me up for another deal just like that. Yes, let's sign up for 2 years from now, have $70 million in player options on dudes who are going to be, 37, 38 years old. That not in the case of Jeremy Grant, but in Drew Holiday. That's it was very, very surprising to see the Blazers do that. And not only that, but to kick in draft picks in order to make that happen was surprising. A team like, I don't know, like if the Bucks went after Drew Holiday, okay, I get it, right? You really need to try to get a guy that's going to hold you over. If the Mavs went after Drew Holiday, okay, I get it, right? That makes sense. He makes no sense for the Blazers from a roster building standpoint, and I also think it is a strong signal of a failure of the Blazers to capture any value for Anthony Simons when they could have. They now have a history of doing this. They're holding on to players for too long. And if your return for Anthony Simons was an aging and overpaid Drew Holiday, you've messed up somewhere along the way. And I do think that there were points in the past where they could have flipped Anthony Simons and gotten significant positive value back. That said, I know this comment said it's a culture setting move. Look, this is purely cap, and on the court, Drew Holiday is awesome. I don't have
Yeah.
anything bad to say about Holiday himself. This is just about the philosophy of building out this roster and where the Blazers currently are.
Yeah, and why I flagged this is because this is a big part of it too, right? They've got two very young guards in Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp, who are I love both. You know, probably more than anybody. I love Scoot Henderson. I have held on to every bit of my Scoot Henderson stock, and then I went and bought all of it that everybody else dropped. I think he's going to be really good. Now you have a guy who can kind of help those two with a little bit of this isn't really a huge criticism, but a little bit of their wildness. Those two get a little crazy. It's a little like the Rockets, right? I think this is their Fred VanVleet kind of move, right? Where it's all right, hey, we're going to overpay VanVleet. The difference was the Rockets cap sheet had flexibility forever, which is part of how they got Kevin Durant. So that's a little bit here. So I get it. I would not have done it, but I think they're okay. I think this is not the end of the world. Let's see what happens. I did write this today too. Chauncey Billups already has been dreaming up, putting out on the floor a lineup of Holiday, Avdia, Grant, Kamara with Klingon hanging out around the basket behind him and being like, go do Thunder things. Go be super physical and rough dudes up all over the court, and let's see what happens. It's not going to be a lineup you play a ton because there's not a lot of shooting in that group, but he's like, hey, if we need to get a little physical, a little messy here, let's go do it. And that's part of it too. So I can understand it, even if this is not a move I would have done.
So, and now the Blazers, they still have more moves to make. Jeremy Grant, rumored to be very available.
Yeah.
I would assume he's very, very, very available at this point. DeAndre
Rob
Ayton,
Williams,
another guy, Rob Williams. I don't see him. I'm not saying these guys are going to fetch a ton. Yeah, Matisse Thybulle just picked up his option.
Very tradable numbers too for Williams and Thybulle. Even Ayton, with all the issues with DeAndre Ayton that can come up, $35.5 million is not. That's 23% of the cap. That's no longer like, oh my God, this guy eats up half of our salary cap. Like now that's a move, especially in the offseason. That's a movable number if somebody gets super desperate for a center.
All right,
that was not a shot at the Lakers, by the way.
No. There's a number. Keith, that was one of the things that I've really been noticing about the market is how many teams that already have centers are connected to pursuing centers, right? Because teams are really starting to stock up on that position before. I think that we're seeing a shift around the NBA back towards the center position, and it's a pretty strong one too, where even like the Pelicans are very heavily rumored to be taking a center in the draft, or if not, going to try to find somebody else out there. They already drafted Yves Missi last year, but teams where 3, 4, 5 years ago were not as locked in on making sure they have multiple centers on their roster. We were seeing more teams play small. It does feel like that's starting to turn, and this market this year is really showing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing more teams get more mileage again out of going big, right back to the double bigs. Not necessarily always going to be like Şengün and Adams where it's two centers, but just, hey, if one of them can stretch the floor, we're okay, right? If one guy can at least force you to guard him out to the 3-point line, we could play with two bigs, and we could kind of go that way. We saw Oklahoma City just won a title playing a lot of two big lineups because Holmgren can step out and shoot. So that's big. So we'll see, ultimately where, kind of all this goes here, but nice transition from M. Bison from Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Wizards make any moves? They made a move.
Keith, do you know the history behind that name?
No.
That M. Bison, they wound up Street Fighter 2. M. Bison was the name of the boxer, Balrog, in Street Fighter 2.
Okay.
Because he is supposed to be Mike Tyson, and they couldn't get the rights, and they didn't want to get sued. The big bad, his name was Balrog, as I recall. Yeah, was or maybe it was Vega. Anyway, they flipped the name.
Vega
the bottom line
is the one with the mask, right?
And yes, Vega is the one with the mask, but I think he got flipped too. But anyway, the bottom, I think he was originally going to be Balrog. Anyway, the bottom line is that the boxer in Street Fighter 2 was going to be Mike Tyson. They couldn't get the rights. They went M. Bison, thinking it'd be close enough, didn't want to get sued, and so they flipped the names around.
Love it. Is that Raul Julia that played M. Bison in the movie?
It is. It is.
Smart guy right
In
here.
fact, I think that might have been his last or certainly one of his last acting jobs because he
I think
was
he's still alive, isn't he?
no, he passed away shortly after that movie. He had stomach cancer.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because wasn't he the oh yeah, you're right, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the original Adams Family, right?
Adam's Family. Yeah. The
Yes,
movie.
that's the I'm thinking of the guy who played in the movies.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Anyway, moving
Anyway,
on.
back to back. We went way off the rails there. Let's get back to basketball. The Pelicans and the Wizards move. We'll talk about that.
Keep up and get stupid on this show.
We're taking
Yeah,
a trip
Pelicans
down.
Wizards, veteran swap, right? I love people are gonna throw in a bunch of Street Fighter things here.
That's right.
What was it? Ryuken, which is just Ryu and Ken.
That's
together.
right.
So, all right.
That's right.
Back to basketball. Focus. Yeah, this is on its face, this trade is like, why? Like, what's the point? But then when you get into it from at least the Wizards side, they cleared out 2 guys who have money into next year.
It's interesting.
The Wizards now have, look at the top of that cap sheet. Expiring. It sounds like the lady from the aunt from the commercial. Expired. Who's going through the newlyweds fridge, but those are all expiring contracts. So you're really into a spot where it is, hey, here it is. Like, we got all these guys that are on expiring deals. Middleton, McCollum, Smart, Olynyk, Holmes, a lot of money coming off the books. The Wizards right now, next summer, even when you count in Corey Kispert and then all the rookie scale guys, they can create $100 million in cap space with relative ease. That's today, June 24th. Let's see. They may make other moves. They may trade one of these vets for some money that goes into next year. $100 million sounds awesome until you have to spend it all. Then it's sort of like, what do we do now?
Sure.
But so they may take a little bit of money on, but this is this is why they did this, right? This doesn't really change much on court for them. McCollum and Poole are similar-ish production kind of guys, off-ball shooting guards who can do some stuff on ball more for themselves than others. Kelly Olynyk gives them a valuable veteran backup center for Alex Sarr. They like having that. They had that with Valanciunas for most of last season. Now they'll have it with Olynyk. And they'll have these vets that will play alongside the kids, but the kids are going to play. Sarr, Koulibaly, Carrington, George, even AJ Johnson flashed at times for this team. And they've got 2 more picks in the first round this year. They're going to play their kids a ton. But these veteran guys, they like having them around just to make sure the kids are held accountable, they stay organized, and they develop in kind of the right way.
And possible that some of these vets could play their way into some value at the trade deadline.
Correct.
And then you could flip them and potentially turn them into something else. And so that's why I really like this for Washington. I don't think Jordan Poole was the long-term guy for them. And you've got so much spending power that you're freeing up.
And to be clear,
I think it makes a lot
the front
of sense.
office show hosts are big fans of Jordan Poole. Like,
we
do not
that's
think
right. It was a few years ago that we predicted that he was going to be like the breakout player for the Warriors.
We've been all over it. We were when we were saying too, like, Jordan Poole's going to get $100+ million contract. People are like, you guys are morons. Yeah, well, we were proven right. So just to say.
So there.
Well, throw my shoulder, I'll pat myself back. But.
What about the Pels side of this, though? Taking on quite a bit of future. Now, saving a little bit of money for this season, but taking on quite a bit of future money. You're adding Jordan Poole. I mean, you get younger with Jordan Poole and Saddiq Bey. You definitely get younger. You've got, but like long term, what is the plan? A DeJounte Murray, Jordan Poole backcourt, and do you even like that?
The only thing that perked my attention up a little bit, made my eyebrows raise a little, is are they loading up for other options if they want to move Zion? They have a trade for Zion this summer because Murphy. Small forward, but he's played at the 4 plenty. Herb Jones can play at the 4 just fine. Saddiq Bey, play him at the 4. He'll be back next year after missing last year. So I just kind of wondering. I don't think it's going to happen, but now and then if it's like, man, that's your trade now when he plays, guy who scores a whole lot of points. Well, he just had a guy who scores a whole lot of points in Jordan Poole. I don't know. It kind of made me wonder a little bit.
Interesting. I wonder if that's what we ultimately land on here. That's an interesting one there. But in general, I like Keith. When I looked at this, I thought, you know what? I think if I were the Pelicans, I would rather have the future flexibility than Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey. But that's me. And maybe they have a vision here. It's not. I think Jordan Poole did a nice job last season, rehabbing some of his value. He bounced back, played fairly well for the Wizards. But I think personally, if I was the Pelicans, I would have kept the future flexibility of the expiring contracts. But we'll see. Maybe there is a vision here, and maybe you're right. Maybe this tells you something else is up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll see, right? Where this goes. It's a very incomplete roster, if we could call it that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the question from James, is a Herb Jones trade coming? I don't think so. Like
They've
that
been pretty
just would
hesitant
make
to
sense.
trade him.
Same thing with Trey Murphy. I think those are the two guys out of really, if you look at this entire list of players, those are the two guys I'm keeping before anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll be keeping those guys, and they'll kind of move forward with the rest of it and see, kind of how it all comes together here. I don't think those two guys go anywhere. I'm not saying that they're like untouchable, because my
Right.
feelings on untouchable players is like 10 in the entire NBA. It's just going to take a whole lot to get either one of them.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's go here. Oh, we've got some super chats here we need to get to. Let's start firing through these.
If you guys send in a super chat, don't resend it. We have them all flagged. We will answer all the super chats before we finish today.
Here's a good question from Jermaine. Said, our team's always hard capped at the first apron when taking back more money. I believe so. And Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's even $1, you get hard capped at that first apron.
Yep, even $1, you get hard capped at the first apron.
If you take back more money. Then you send out and trade. Johnny Test, Trev, should the Lakers seriously consider looking into Chris Dunn as a defensive guard for the team, or maybe even Corey Kispert for more shooting? I'm a fan of Chris Dunn. I've enjoyed his game. I like him a lot, but I think they're going to be primarily focused on finding a big and seeing what they can do there. I think the other challenge there is Chris Dunn's a Clipper.
Yeah,
so
that's where I was going.
Trying to get him. The only chance that the Clippers are trading Chris, just like the Lakers fans are talking about Daniel Gafford, the only chance the Mavs are giving Daniel Gafford to the Lakers after what already happened is if they are fleecing the Lakers in the deal, and that's very clear. It should have been a giant red flag to the Lakers when the Clippers said yes to the Ivica Zubac trade. That should have been all the evidence they needed right there that it was a bad trade, because the only way the Clippers are trading with the Lakers is if they are fleecing them. So that's the other thing. Chris Dunn, as a Clipper, he's not going to wind up on the Lakers, but I do like him a lot.
Sure. Yeah. I think he'd be a good fit for the Lakers. I just don't see it happen for all the reasons you laid out. Corey Kispert, I mean, sure, it's not a bad idea. For more shooting. I think the Lakers would rather put those resources towards getting big men in or backcourt defenders, and see if Dalton Connect can either grow into that role, or if Connect is part of another trade somewhere.
All right, let's go to Miguel. Said, is there anything to Matisse Thybulle accepting his player option before his deadline and before the draft? Could that be signal of a trade?
His deadline was today.
Yeah.
So he had to pick it up today. Some guys' deadline was
a lot of
today.
guys 29th.
Yeah, most guys are the 29th. That's the big day, but we have a handful that were before that. Thybulle's deadline was today for what I think that was a remnant of. Remember, he signed that offer sheet with Dallas. And when you're signing a player to an offer sheet, you want to put all the kind of bells and whistles in there to make it less likely the other side will match. Portland matched. And one of those things is an early option deadline. And there it was. And he's already opted in. But I'm not going to say it precludes him being traded. I just don't think it was part of, now he's going to get traded today or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. It's not necessarily what is, what was the driving factor there.
Yeah.
Okay. And most of these guys, it's going to be the 29th for them.
Yeah, almost everybody. It's John Collins is Thursday. Jared Butler's team option is Friday. Then everybody else, I think, is this weekend, is the 29th. Kyrie, we're waiting on today, but that's been very heavily reported.
Kyrie, you said?
Yeah, today. Yeah,
Right.
by
And he'll either pick that up
11:59
and then maybe
p.m.
extend off of that or just sign a new. He's not leaving Dallas,
He's
though. I
not
don't
leaving
see that.
Dallas either way. Yeah, there's what the conversation now is what makes the most sense for Kyrie and the Mavericks to get him paid while giving Dallas flexibility.
All right. Jermaine Thomas said Maxi Kleba, Shake Milton, 31st pick, and 2 pick swaps for Mark Williams and Josh
Ew, gross.
Okogie. Yeah.
I would
Why?
not do that. You already
Yeah.
went down the Mark Williams path.
They
Going
did that.
down it again.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's way too much, too. I would not do that.
Yeah.
That made me like throw up in my mouth a little bit.
Well, I think they're looking at it thinking like, okay, Dalton Connect isn't in it, so let's add pick swap. Anyway, yeah, I think the Mark Williams ship has sailed. Are you all going to go live during the draft and then free agency? Yep. Yes, we will.
We're going to do the first round tomorrow night. If major stuff happens and either one of us needs to, if the Lakers don't, we're kind of lucky just simply for broadcasting purposes on the channel that the Lakers don't have a first round pick because it may mean you don't have to bounce out on us mid show. But if they trade in,
or
you'll bounce out.
It will.
Stuff. Maybe they will, Mr. Burns. So we'll see, what happens with that. And if you have to, I'll carry it myself for a little while and we're going to break it all down, talk a bunch of stuff. I will say too, the loose plan is for this weekend. I think we're going to try to go Saturday morning. Bryce Simon and I are going to do a full recap. It'll be a very long show.
You guys did that last year. It was great.
And people loved it. And it gives you a really long draft recap show if you're driving somewhere for like, it's not necessarily 4th of July because that's like a week later. But if you're headed anywhere, you're cutting the grass or whatever you're doing, we go through all 30 teams and what they didn't do at the draft and where things are setting up. We try to talk about all 59. There's only 59 picks because the Knicks forfeited their second. Well, we'll do. Look at this guy checking in. That's my boy right there, Bryce. So yeah, so we're gonna try to make that happen Saturday. I don't know that we'll do it live. I think we'll probably record it and do it because it's gonna be early in the morning. That would mean I'd have to like actually get dressed and not have crazy hair and all kinds of stuff. But we'll see. We'll decide on that. So, and I'll tell you guys, Bryce is if you're not watching Game Theory with Sam Vecini,
he did great.
Bryce is on. Bryce is cold on this draft. He knows this inside and out. And then to the other part of his question, we'll be live on free agency. Yeah, first night we usually go late. It's usually midnight or later. We wait till things kind of calm down a little bit, and then we go. But each year we still tend to get something funky that happens, and you get to see Trevor's usually fine. I'm usually a little punchy by the time we start recording. And I don't know if you missed last year's show, how it started. I'm just saying you missed out on some fun.
That was a good time. That was a good time. Okay, let's go here. D-Rock said Claxton 19 and 26 for what? Basically suggesting the Nets should make some trades. Cam Johnson, number 27, attaching picks. I mean, they've got the nice thing about the Nets is they have flexibility. There's a lot of different directions they can go with things. Maybe you package 19 and 26 and you're trying to move up. Cam Johnson 27, trying to move up in the draft. But there's a lot of different ways they can go. Maybe they can turn some guys into young players. I mean, the only thing I'm not doing is I'm not trading for an aging veteran if I'm the Nets right now. That doesn't make any sense for them. But everything else, I mean, future draft capital, draft picks, all that on the table. An aging veteran.
If it's a salary dump and I'm getting paid to do it.
Exactly. That's the exception. Where if it's Kevin Durant, right? I mean, forget the Nets history with KD, but you're not going to go trade for a Kevin Durant or something and that type of thing.
Justin, knock it off in the chat. Nobody wants fake, stupid breaking trade news.
Yeah.
It's annoying to everyone.
We'll do a couple more of the super chats here, and then we can get into some of your other flagged questions. Tom said, Lakers should be focused on consolidation, get a wing and a center by using Connect and a first and expirings. Defensive guard. The problem was that one of their issues was depth. So it's hard to consolidate while also adding depth to your team, right? I mean, they had 5 guys in the playoffs that they actually trusted to put on the floor, and that was it. And so that's part of their problem too. But, you're not wrong in terms of what they need. They do need a wing. They do need a center. They need a guard. They need a lot of things. But I don't think we can look at them like the Nets. We can look at and say, are they really going to draft 4 rookies in the first round and bring them all in? Maybe they will, but they also could consolidate those picks into something that would make sense. For the Lakers, they've got to have depth on this team. That's becoming more and more important around the NBA. And so I don't know that a knee-jerk reaction should be a consolidation trade for them.
That's going to be my kind of driving thing this offseason. Try not to overreact too much to the Thunder and the Pacers getting to the finals, but I even think Boston and Dallas were pretty good examples of it. You have to have enough guys to get through 100 games if you want to win a title, because there's stuff is gonna come up throughout the course of the regular season and the playoffs. You got to get there. I'll just give you my overarching thing for the Lakers. Whatever trades they do, fine. We'll get there with that. I want to see them be in position to make a smart, sensible trade and also probably use the taxpayer MLE. I think they can probably get there, or at least a chunk of it.
The taxpayer, sure.
Yeah, I think that's going to solve for them to really be in a pretty good spot with get a starting center. And it doesn't have to be the starting center who's going to play 35 minutes a night. You just need somebody to play 20 to 25 minutes a night and be competent in that role. Just somebody who's basically a better version of Jackson Hayes. And I have no problem then if you bring Jackson Hayes back for a 15-minute a night backup role. That's fine. It's probably what he should be. That's okay. So yeah, just be smart about how you use your relatively limited resources. You don't want to be consolidation trade. That's not the way forward. That's going to leave you too shorthanded.
Yep. Agreed. Mamadou, do you see the Lakers giving their pick a two-way contract so we don't have to use up a roster spot? Potentially, sure. Yeah, but you're going to know that if you're the Lakers, not publicly, but you're going to know that if you're the Lakers when you're drafting that player. A lot of those conversations are getting had mid to end of the second round with those guys. Hey, are you willing to come on a two-way? And that may determine whether or not the team picks that player.
Yeah, you just that's where the Lakers, I mean, they're picking so late in the second round.
Yeah.
Really from 40 on down now has become you're in two-way range. Like that's where teams are picking guys for two-way contracts. They're also getting into spots that deep into the draft where you could be a team that has like second apron issues and you need somebody on a really cheap contract to just fill a roster spot. You get into that a little bit there. But yeah, I think being how late they're picking. But I said this the other day. I'm not going to be shocked at all if they trade up or trade to get a higher second round pick. They won't straight buy it. That'll cause issues. But just to get an earlier second round pick, keep an eye on Orlando, only because they've done it twice recently with the Magic, and teams tend to go back, and the Magic have roster issues, roster spot issues where they're probably not going to keep both seconds.
Why would now? I don't expect straight buying it to be an option for them. It has not been over the last few years. We've not seen many teams just straight sell second round picks, not like we may have seen, a decade ago, maybe a little bit more. But why would buying a pick, if that were available, why would that cause problems?
Triggers that second apron hard cap, which is if you're not using the taxpayer MLE, if you're planning on, we're definitely using the taxpayer MLE, go buy a pick. You can't get double hard capped. I'm not putting two bicycle helmets on. So you get hard capped, and then you're once you're hard capped, you're fine. Then do all the things that would hard cap you. But it's just if they're trying to avoid that second apron hard cap, just because we saw what it did to Dallas to be hard capped, and then you ran into they even have enough guys to play this game. You just want to avoid it if you can. But if you're already going to go there, then go buy a pick. Why not? That's one of the nice things about having this new super rich owner coming in. Things like buying picks. If you could deal with the roster related restrictions, go nuts. Go nuts with it. You can only send so much money in trade, so much cash in trade.
And again, it's just under 5 million you can send in a trade, something like that. Yeah, that makes it. I knew obviously about the second apron hard cap issue, but I think most teams I look at and say they're probably not going to exceed the second apron anyway. They're going to treat it as a hard cap regardless.
Yep, yeah, without a doubt. That's what it's become. Zach Lowe has started calling it the true hard cap, and that's pretty close. I think unless you are at 100, the Phoenix Suns aside, which put themselves in just a horrendous situation, cap, tax, apron wise. But Boston was 100%, we're a title contender. We will go into the second apron. Minnesota, I think rightly so, they made the West Finals 2 years in a row. we're going for it. We'll go into the second apron. If you're not certain you're a title contender, you want to avoid the second apron just because of the issues it causes, especially with frozen picks and all the other things that happen with that.
100%. 100%. Okay. And we'll go here. Ace Avenue said, can we keep our top 5 and trade for Aiton or Tybalt? You talking top 5 players?
Not both of those guys.
No.
That's
Yeah.
$45 million, $46 million.
Right. I mean, just getting to 8. If we're talking about the Lakers here, like
Yeah,
I'm
I
assuming
gotta,
that's a Lakers question.
yeah.
That's what it is. Like just getting there math wise. And by the way, if you want to hear more about DeAndre Ayton, Ron Gutterman and I talked all about him yesterday over on Lakers Nations. You guys can check that out. But just in order to get this enough salaries going out, I mean, I guess you could try stacking up Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleba to try
and
to
you run into though again, you're hard capping yourself there, and
and so most likely you're talking about building something around the 18 million expiring that Rui Hachimura has, and we could talk about whether or not Portland even wants that back, but it's getting to that 36 million. It's a lot more challenging than getting to say the 25 million up for Nick Claxton or the whatever 20-ish for Pirtle and stuff like that. That 36 million is a big number. That, and Keith, the more I dug on DeAndre Ayton, the less interested I was, to be honest. And I don't hate him or anything.
Yeah, but you don't have icy driveways in Los Angeles, so that's a good thing.
Right. There you go.
You're not gonna miss games because of that. I just want to pull this one just because I like Jovian Morales. What do you think of the fit with KP and Wemby? That's one of the rumors. It's out there that the Spurs are interested in Porzingis. I think it looks like the things that do this in front of the car dealership. If you had those two,
the wacky inflatable waving arm man or
exactly.
something. Yeah,
I think that's what it would look like on defense to opponents and be like, how the hell are we supposed to get a shot off against this madness? But being more serious, okay, sure. I kind of get there. I think it's been forgotten because this past season was such a mess for him. And then he did get hurt in the playoffs last year. Kristaps Porzingis was awesome year one in ball. Legit, could have been an all-star. Good for the Celtics in that first year. There were a lot of people a lot of people thought he was right on the edge, and he got pretty close, voting-wise, too. That's how great he played for the Celtics. Last year was a disaster. But they hope that with true time off, that they're going to figure out whatever this mystery illness is. A lot of people think it was maybe long COVID.
Did you see there's something he posted that he was looking forward to playing this summer, and it's something on Instagram
play for Latvia and
he's feeling better now.
Which I mean, if he's feeling good by 2 months from now when Eurobasket starts, go for it, man. I don't have any real issue with it. So yeah, I don't hate the idea for the Spurs, and I kind of get why. Yeah, let's see what it looks like.
All right, let's go here. Tom said, regarding my super chat, if they use 5 guys in the playoffs, that means we don't have depth. Yeah, that's what you got to get is depth. You got to find guys who can add depth. But Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, Shake Milton, Dalton Connect are dead weight. I mean, Dalton Connect, I definitely wouldn't put in that category.
Too early for that.
And again, I think they need to build out depth on this roster. If you're talking about stacking up Gabe and Maxi Kleba in general and expiring contracts and using guys who aren't going to be part of the rotation or maybe shouldn't be part of the rotation, okay, you can maybe add some pieces that way, but you're still going to have to give up stuff that other teams want too. And pure expirings won't get it done unless there's a player that's on a contract that another team doesn't want to have long term.
Yep, spot on.
Okay. Any others that you want to get to here? Any other questions that you flagged that you want to do before
let me run through them real quick. I don't think De'Aaron Fox for Franz Wagner works really for the Magic. I don't think they would have any real interest in that. I'm not saying the Magic are done with their moves, but they're going to go into next season with their core 4 being Banchero, Wagner, Bane, and Suggs. They're very, very set on that. They're I think extremely excited. Let me rephrase. They are extremely excited about that. I don't think one of those guys is going anywhere. After this season, if things don't really go the way they want, yeah, maybe. We'll see. I think I might have explained this before, but I keep getting this question. How does the Durant work? Phoenix second apron's taking on more money in the trade. It's pretty complicated. It's pretty nerdy, but Dylan Brooks has a option. Dylan Brooks on the Houston Rockets, which he still is right now because we have not, this trade has not been made official yet. That option is likely, or bonus rather, not option,
Right.
bonus. That bonus is likely. So he gets $1 million more. That puts them total money out at, I believe it's like 55 million in change. So that's how they get Durant back because they're sending out more than they bring back. So great, easy, done, moving on. On the Suns side, the minute Brooks is acquired by the Suns, this is where I'll remind everybody, a trade's legality is determined post-trade. It is not what it is going into it. It is what it is on the backside. Dylan Brooks option, bonus, not option, bonus. I'm thinking about options because there's option deadlines. His bonus immediately flips to unlikely because what his bonus is based off is, did the team he's on make the playoffs the prior year? Rockets did, so it's likely on the Rockets side. Suns did not. When he gets to the Suns, it is not likely. It flips over. Dylan Brooks already got paid that bonus for making the playoffs this past year. So he gets that no matter what. Nothing changes for him. He earned his $1 million. He gets it. But next year, if the team he's on doesn't make the playoffs, which could have been the same with the Rockets. I don't think it would have been, but could have been. He doesn't earn that bonus because he's on the Suns. Flips to unlikely. Now the Suns are taking in less than they send out by just a smidgen.
Crazy.
But under the Durant. So that's how important this stuff is around the margins with the aprons.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Like, I mean, just talk about threading the needle. Unbelievable. Nick said, hey guys, or Nicholas, I should say, said, hey guys, Grizzlies.
We can call him Nick. We're close now.
Can we?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
I mean, unless he doesn't like it.
Some people go by like the full, they don't go by the nickname. They go, I've known people that, my name's not Mike, it's Michael and stuff like that, right?
All right, Nick. See, I just called him Nick.
You did
Nicholas,
it again.
Let us know what you go.
You're offending the poor guy here.
No, I'm not, because he just said I actually go by Nick.
There we go. There we go. We're in the clear.
Yeah, our good friend Nick.
Our good buddy Nick here said, just in the nick of time, said, are the Grizzlies going to make any more moves? Some fans want Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. I think a lot of fans of a lot of teams want Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. Those would be great fits. But I do think the Grizzlies will do a few other things here. Their big trade was obviously the Desmond Bane deal, but now let's see what they do at 16. They can figure some things out there. But I do think that we see some more things done in Memphis. There seems to be a desire for change there.
Yeah, I don't know that it's going to be Murphy or Jones. I love the idea, dream big, but I think they're going to go in a spot where they go slightly different direction. We got Kristaps P. I think he might be talking about the Spurs. You did nothing we've seen yet. I was been looking at my phone. I have my notifications on. I haven't seen any. That's just one of the things that's rumored out there is that the Spurs are interested.
Nothing official there. Yeah. And then Vacation Wealth Partners said, sorry if it's too personal, I'd like to reach out about having Keith as a guest on our sports podcast. Well, the best thing to do would be what? DM you?
No. I don't have my DMs turned on. Email.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah. No, I don't have my DMs turned on. Too many ladies are sliding in there, and I'm a happily married man.
I got you.
You got to be careful with that. No, yeah. No, it's no, I'm mostly because when I had them turned on, they got out of control with people not saying nice things, and I don't
really.
In my life,
I just get a lot of, what do you think of this trade?
Yeah, and that I'm also going to ignore. Email me. My email is in my bio at least on Twitter. I think it's in there on Blue Sky as well. Do that. Let's talk about how he built some vacation wealth too. I'd like to.
Yeah.
Right. What is vacation wealth? I want vacation wealth.
Yeah. What is that? Does that mean you actually like build wealth by going on vacation? Because that would be, that sounds fun. Let's do that.
Let's go, man. Yeah. You paid
me I'm telling you, between your Disney knowledge and my burgeoning cruise ship knowledge, and your residency there in Florida, we could we could leave the NBA world behind and just start a vacation channel and absolutely crush it. I
found this. You know how YouTube feeds you stuff, and then you watch one thing, and it feeds you 100 more videos of the same thing. So like right now, my YouTube is all basketball stuff.
Yeah.
And then it is all it's like people playing GTA mostly because that's one of the things I do to relax is watch people play GTA. But I watched a Disney video and then it started feeding me Disney videos. And this one girl's channel seems to be she goes around the theme parks here in Florida and eats and shops. It takes pictures of the things she buys, and she has like a bajillion followers.
Yep.
On like, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong?
There's a million of them, but those channels exist, and oh man, I'm still getting them because we went, a month ago or whatever. And if you're really into that stuff, oh man, like there's so much stuff out there. I mean, rope drop strategies. Let me tell you about that. Like, we went crazy with all of that kind of stuff. Deep dives. And okay, we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna go here, and we're gonna get it at this time. And we're gonna do all this stuff. And
it's more Disney strategy videos than there are NBA strategy videos.
There are, and I'll tell you what, it worked out.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Man, Jeremy, right at the buzzer. All right, last one, because I gotta go eat dinner, and then I have to write. I haven't even finished the Pacers and Thunder's off-season previews, and the goal was to have them posted yesterday.
Whoops.
So we'll get there. Tell me how to make the Bucks East contenders this season and Giannis happy. Work a Lillard trade with someone. I don't think that's going to happen. Fill out your roster as best you can. They have a lot more flexibility now. They're out from under the aprons. I would try to bring Brook Lopez back. Let's see where Bobby Portis is at. But make your moves around the edges. Here's the good news. You have Giannis. That's a great place to start from. And you're in the East. That's the second really good place to start from. Probably those two things alone, if Giannis is moderately healthy next year, you're a playoff team. From there, you'll figure out the rest and you probably move a little bit forward. So,
Yep. There's no cure-all there. But just you do the best that you can. All right, everybody. Well, look, I'm almost like anticipating anything, dropping like right now, because you just never know this time of year. But thank you, everybody, for joining the show.
Spike, let's go before you leave. Hit that like button for us.
Hit that button. Hit the like button. Appreciate all of you, everybody. Till next time. See ya. And stay safe.